Take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. Jim Rohn. Welcome to Casa de Confidence, a podcast for you. You'll hear some incredible women
and some awesome, cool dudes
going confidently in the direction of their dreams and living in the purpose of their heart.
You're our host,
Julie DeLucca-Collins, and you are our sidekick. Hashtag handsome hot husband.
That again.
And the producer of the show.
That I am.
I am an author, speaker, coach, dreamer, and most of all,
we help people go in the direction of their dreams
and support them on their purpose. So pull up a chair,
grab a drink,
and make yourself at home because our casa
is your casa. Welcome back or welcome to Casa de Confidence. This is Dan.
This is Julie.
What happened there? Do you have a little bit of brain fog there?
I was, because I'm a woman in midlife and that's what happens. Ay, Dios mío.
Oh my gosh, Julie. That was a little blank spot in the transmission.
Listen, I got it going on today. Anyway, real talk from an amazing interview with Amanda Hinman today. And by the way, I did want to talk about brain fog, but I didn't intend to make it happen as we were getting ready to record.
You did make it happen. Good. You know what? Real world applications.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel as a man in midlife?
I'm just going to say you were walking the talk.
I was walking the talk. Very nice, Daniel. How do you feel as a man in midlife?
Well, if you're over 40 like us.
Like us? Oh my God. Jeez.
Julie, we're over 50.
Speak for yourself. Listen, did you see this little thing here? Look.
What's that?
Look at me.
I'm looking. I have no idea what that is.
Yeah. Okay. So hold on. Describe it for the listeners.
It's like a little panda bear, a polar bear cap on top of
this thing.
Makeup
and look,
or something.
And it looks like a giant.
It looks like
chapstick.
a giant, but it's a glue stick. It looks like a glue stick.
Okay, but look, this is where it goes. Do 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 do.
Oh, it's anti-bag.
It's for your under eye bags. And it's a little refreshing thing that I've been using before I start recording, and it makes me feel good. Just a little thing.
So women worry about they worry about their eye bags drooping. Men have other things that follow later in life.
You're telling me that you're worried about drooping?
Certain bits of the man.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Sorry, a little too much detail.
Mm-hmm. We don't want to alienate the women listeners here.
Oh, well, it is what it is. So, me being over 40, being over 50, it kind of feels like my body didn't get the memo that we still have stuff to do. So, yeah, sometimes you got stuff to do. I was out cleaning. I have my old car outside, and we have to sadly retire it. It needs to go into, the
graveyard of cars.
Yes. So I'm making sure there's nothing in there I don't need. And I was cleaning out the trunk and stuff. Oh, it took a lot out of me. I was like, oh my gosh, because I've kind of been using it for tool storage to work on the other car.
You're just letting people know that we had a car sitting in our driveway.
Yeah.
To my dismay.
To your dismay. So,
my dismay.
Anyway, cleaning it out, getting all my stuff out of there. And I was wiped after doing that, and I had more stuff to do, but time got away. Listen,
you're a man
that
does it all. You're a podcast producer, a tech guy, and now apparently a newsletter writer, Daniel.
Oh, I ordered a new mug.
Oh, you ordered a new mug? What does it say?
On one side, it says the tech, and the other side is a big picture of you that says the talent.
Oh, my God. I'm going to have to look at that?
Oh, you're going to have to look at that.
Oh, okay.
I did not put my picture on it, though.
You did not put your picture on it?
Well,
okay.
Well, any picture, anything that has your picture on it is that much more beautiful.
Ugh, he's trying to butter me up. Oh, my goodness. Because I actually told my mom last night that we're going to go grocery shopping for this recipe that I saw on TikTok that I know it's going to make your heart sing.
Oh, very good. I'm sure it has pasta in it if it's going to make my heart sing.
Oh my gosh, do I know you well.
You're going to go do that after we're going to
go do that. Yes, but my pantalones are falling, so I need to go put a belt on.
Well, much to your chagrin, yes. Finally, after months and months and months.
Oh God, I know what's going to happen.
While you're away, I'm going to get your computer transitioned over.
Okay, can I just
So you're back to a laptop.
He transitioned me. He talked for months and bothered me for months to close out all my tabs so that he could put me into this computer, into the tower. Now, fine. It was like a little getting used to having the tower and blah, 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 because he had to move everything on my desk. And so now we're back to the laptop. And he's been bothering me for weeks to close up all my tabs. Does he not know that I keep my tabs open so that it reminds me what I need to go back to work on?
Of course. But the really cool thing, and you should take this as, do you believe in signs, Julie?
In signs?
Do you believe in signs?
Signs or science?
SIGNS, signs.
Of course I do. You know, I'm a little signage lady.
So when you came into the office this morning, what state was your computer in?
It was in some sort of like window that locked and then like updated BS. But you know,
that's actually the reboot screen. You know what happens?
What?
It rebooted. And that should be a sign that all your windows closed.
I reopen them though.
Yeah, but
because Google says history, and I just go back to my history and reopen everything.
That's the sign that today's the day.
Today's the day. Okay, well, all right, fine, whatever. I'm going to go out and about.
Julie.
And go about my life. Yes, Dan.
Did you say the name of the guest yet?
Amanda Hinman.
Very good.
Yes.
What's Amanda all about?
Oh, you want me to tell you all about Amanda?
Well, everyone's going to hear all about her when you introduce her, but I mean, I know you're talking about brain fog and burnout. I'm sure that has something to do with the interview.
Well, not only that, but, you know, I actually spoke to Amanda at a very timely time. I was actually not doing well. I was just getting over walking pneumonia. But she's a functional medicine health coach and a best-selling author. And she specializes in helping women, successful women, that is, really who are struggling with hormone, mood, and imbalance. And she supports them in getting healthy and to heal naturally. And obviously, most of us are looking to gain more energy, get more sleep, and feel fantastic every day. And I know that this is one of the biggest gifts that she gives people. And she comes to it from a personal perspective. And again, I really appreciate everything that we talked about in this interview.
She's a best-selling author too, right?
She is a best-selling author. So
it's
very cool.
You know, before we get on to the guest.
Yes.
This week was something incredible, crazy, cool happened for me.
Okay. Yes. You realize you're married to me?
I am. That's why it was a cool thing, because it wouldn't have happened without you.
Oh, okay.
I participated in a workshop with you.
That's right. You were the only male that the Passionista is allowed to come into the membership to do a workshop.
So,
that was pretty cool.
I just kind of showed up. Did they know I was coming?
I thought they did. But the workshop has been something that's been planned for some months now. And every month I'm going to be doing a workshop in the Passionistas membership. And if you don't belong, you can join for free. And if you're part of this community, I would love for you to check it out. And if you want to see a replay without joining, if you want to just check it out, you can DM me on Instagram and say replay, and I will send you the replay for that.
The workshop was about how to start your podcast.
And we've done a little bit of that. We did a boot camp on how to start a podcast, but now we took 3 days of content and we narrowed it down.
We kind of compressed it, broad stroked
like a file.
Tried to give something, you know, some information and some inspiration to people that were thinking about starting their podcast, or somebody who's thinking about, you know, taking their current podcast and improving upon it. So any tips we can help.
Very nice. Hey, I wanted to say that I want to try out a new tagline.
Wait a minute.
What?
How do they go check out the Passionistas Project membership?
Well, easy. The Passionistas Project.circle.so. And you can join there for free.
Cool.
Yeah. And I'm going to put that in the show notes so that you can go and join. And when you sign up, I will welcome you like I do every other friend that joins. So it's a great membership, and it's filled with some incredible women. And we were so honored to be able to host our workshop there. And I am going to be sending out the list of other workshops that I will be hosting in the membership. So stay tuned for that, my friends.
Cool.
Yes. So now, Dan, tell me about these tech tips from Dan.
Tech tips from Dan.
Yeah.
Did my first tech tip went out this week? Did it not?
No, the announcement went out, and you know what happened?
I didn't know if it actually was published or not.
No. Well, listen to me. The announcement went out Friday, and I am sad to say Friday, March 23rd, 2025. And I'm sad to say that I had written the email telling people. And then I wrote the email earlier. Now I started to create the landing page where people can go and sign up for it. And someone during the week said to me, okay, you're done working. It's time for dinner. And I left in the middle of the task.
Yep.
And then I never finished the landing page to add to the newsletter. And the next day, the newsletter went out because it was programmed to go out at 6:30 a.m. And it went out without the landing page. So people emailed me and said, I want to sign up, but there's no link.
So let me see.
Yes.
This is my fault.
Well, I didn't say it was your fault. See, this is the problem with how you interpret things.
Well, sometimes.
Yes.
Self-care has to take a priority. And what I'm saying is sometimes you get hyper-focused.
I get hyper-focused because for me, and I was thinking about this on Monday, I wake up on Mondays and I'm always excited. Because I love that it's a Monday, it's a brand new week, and I get to do so many cool things with individuals that I love and that they're doing some fantastic work in the world. And to me, this is not work.
What is the saying?
When you love what you do, you don't have to work a day in your life. But Dan, here's a good coaching, not for you, because of course I would never coach you. But
of course not.
I want to just say this to the listeners. Dan said to me something, whose fault is it, right? And I never in the conversation said it's his fault that I didn't get to it. It was my fault in so many ways. I could have not scheduled but
of course
Dan internalized it, that it was his fault.
I did not internalize it.
Well, but it could happen when you assume.
But it was actually humor.
It was humor. I get it. But what I'm saying to you is that this is something that is so easily that happens with people. One person says one thing, and based on the experience, the other person assumes that this is what they're saying. When it has, and even if it is what they're saying, it is up to us to say, well, who cares if you think it was my fault? It's not. I don't, and who cares, right? And this is the problem with things that we run into in relationships. We sometimes assume, and by the way, I am working on not being passive aggressive. So I would have said to you, Dean, it's your fault I didn't do it because you dragged me out of here.
Well, you should also work on?
What?
Detecting when I'm joking.
I know when you're joking.
You didn't that time.
What?
You didn't that time.
Okay.
You assumed I was butthurt.
So I'm definitely breaking one of the rules in the 4 agreements. That's the number 3 rule. Don't make assumptions. Find the quiet courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life.
You know what I love about us?
What?
That we can say almost anything to each other.
Radical candor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can say anything to each other for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Yogi is getting old.
Yeah.
He's been struggling to go down the stairs, and not that he never struggled, because he always did. He's OCD, so he cannot have anybody blocking the stairs, and he gets very hesitant, and he's looking at me like, why are you talking about me? Anyhow, but lately
I think he needs his hair trimmed, though.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's in his front of his eyes. He might be.
Well, I'm going to go do that while you transfer my computer before I go shopping. I thought you were going
shopping. Oh, before you go shopping. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So anyhow,
Julie, I think we've gone on. We've gone on,
but so let's just kind of wrap up on this really quickly.
Okay.
Number 1, tech tips from Dan. Go sign up for it in the email that goes out announcing this episode. You surely will get the link. Number 2, stay tuned for more workshops on the Passionistas Project membership.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, our incredible host of our newest podcast, Amy Layton, will be joining us, and stay tuned for that. I'm just going to tease it out later, but I'm not going to go really in depth.
Currently in planning mode, yeah, getting her message together, and she has a strong message.
Yes, just like Amanda Hinman, our guest for today. And again, she's a best-selling author, and she is going to help you build the resilience and reinvention and hope that you need for your life. So super excited to bring this interview to you. I felt a lot better once I spoke to her, and really, I loved it. And if you're in survival mode.
And this is kind of the way I feel. If you're feeling off, tired, or stuck, this interview is for you.
Let's get a pep on your step, people.
Your body's not broken. You're not broken, and you're not alone. A lot of people feel the same way later in life. So let's go ahead and dive in. Here's our conversation.
Amazing.
With Amanda Hinman and Julie DeLucca-Collins.
Hi, everybody. You know that I've been struggling with my health, as most of us seem to be these days. I've heard so many individuals struggling with either walking pneumonia like I did, or having the flu like I did. And again, I think that most of us have the power to live that life that not only makes us feel good about ourselves, but most of all are allowing us to be well. And overall, not only mental, but physical health. And a lot of the times we get really overwhelmed with our health. We don't even know where to start. And we've been just kind of going in this hamster wheel. Now, if you are tired, or if you are struggling health-wise, there's a lot of different things that you can do. And by the way, I was mentioning to our guests that eating healthy is that cornerstone for me. And by the way, I'm not perfect. That, we typically will be very good, and then once in a while go off the rails, but that's normal, right? But really, eating healthy, getting a lot of vegetables in, not processed foods, is one of the things that I always go back to, because as someone that has an autoimmune and someone that has, again, health issues, I know that helps me tremendously. So our guest today is someone that, again, helps people in that holistic health realm. And she is the Hinman Holistic Health Institute, Amanda Hinman. She's here to advocate for health, and we're going to learn not only about what she does, what are some of the best tips that she has for us when it comes to managing well-being and health, but let's talk a little bit about her journey here. So welcome, Amanda.
Hi, Julie. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and to share. And yes, perfect timing. As you said, you're dialed in and doing some of the good nourishment and kind of rebuilding that health back for you. So thank you for that warm introduction. As I said, I am the best-selling author of the Thyroid Hormone Solution and founder of the Thyroid Hormone Solution program, where I help women over 40 to really step into their next level of energy, improve mood, and increase metabolism so they can feel their best in all areas of life. So, and you asked how I got into this work
Yeah. How
and why.
did you get into it? Because let me tell you, I wish I knew you when I turned 40 and I started to struggle with some of these issues.
Yes. Well, honestly, I feel like it was a little bit of a divine redirection in my life. I've
Mhm.
always been somebody who was interested in fitness and in food, nutrition from a health perspective. But back early, like decades ago, I was working as an accountant, financial planning, doing
Mhm.
accounting work, teaching some fitness classes on the side. But um, it wasn't until I had was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition called
Mhm.
Hashimoto's thyroiditis. This took
Mhm.
place during my fourth pregnancy.
Wow.
I have four daughters, Julie, that are fun, beautiful daughters. But
Yeah.
during that
Beautiful.
pregnancy, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, and I remember. I mean, this is going to sound so silly now, but I remember sitting in that doctor's office, and I think my first reaction was anger, like,
Mm. Yeah.
what do you mean I have an autoimmune diagnosis? I didn't know what that meant
Mhm.
at first. And then the doctor explained, oh, you know what? It means your body is attacking itself. You'll have to take medication for the rest of your life to help manage your
Yeah, how
thyroid.
crazy is
And
that when they tell you that, right? Like your
I know,
body is attacking
attacking
itself. And I
itself.
remember thinking, what? Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I was like, and I was like, kind of, my pride was getting in the way because I was like, here I am. I think I'm very healthy. I eat
Mhm.
salads and smoothies every day. I
Mhm.
teach group fitness classes. I teach cardio kickboxing. Like, how can you tell me that I have this like lifelong disease,
Mm.
And when I did more research, I found, oh, likely you're going to have more, once you have one autoimmune dynamic,
Mhm.
you're likely to have
Yeah.
more down the road. And so I was in this place of a little bit of defiance at first, and then kind of surrender of like, okay, I'm just going to go into action and do all the things that you need to do. I'm going to go work with a naturopathic doctor, did all of the expensive testing,
Mhm.
and got a list of about 18 supplements to start taking and all these foods to eliminate.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, I can handle this. I can do this. I'm like Wonder Woman type of a mentality, went into it. And after about 3 months, they said, come back and we'll come back in 6 months or we'll retest your labs and see where you're at. And I started to feel resentful, Julie. It was like,
Mm.
this is so much work and I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily feeling better. My hair is still thinning. I still have
Mhm.
acne on my face. I can't sleep through the night. I'm feeling just kind of depleted. And now I can't eat any of the foods that I like. I have to swallow 18 pills a day. Like it was just
Yeah.
not fun,
Such a
right?
common story. Such a common
Very
story.
common.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I have a friend that still is very resentful years in, right?
Mhm.
Of her diagnosis. So I totally identified with that.
Yes. And then it kind of got worse. Then I had,
Okay.
honestly, what I would think of as like a total life fear and shakeup. My oldest daughter at that time was eight
Mhm.
years old. This is about 10 months after my diagnosis. She was 8. And she had always been a highly sensitive little girl,
Mhm.
prone to anxiety. And that escalated to the point of where her anxiety led her to have between 10 and 15 seizures in a
Mm.
day.
Yeah.
Julie, when I tell you there's nothing that brings you to your knees more as a parent
Yeah.
than the fear for your child's life.
Absolutely. And it's scary to watch someone go through that. And I'm not a parent. I don't have children, but I do have a dog that goes through seizures and I freak out. So I can imagine that's 100 times worse for you as a parent.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really scary. And we're at the best pediatric neurologists, amazing
Mhm.
doctors and nurses working with us down at Lurie Children's in Chicago. And, they're doing all the tests, doing all the EEGs, monitoring everything. And
Mhm.
they're like, there's no exact cause of this. She doesn't have a tumor. There's no
Mhm.
you know, dysfunction in her
Yeah.
brain. Sometimes these things are hereditary. And that's what I've been told for the autoimmune. Sometimes these things are
Right.
hereditary.
Yeah.
And every fiber in my being was like, this is not the rest of her story. Like,
And
she was
she was
on
having episodes daily, wasn't she?
daily, multiple, 10 to
Oh,
15 a day. I mean, she
wow.
usually within the first 5 minutes of her waking up. And now I know, at the time I didn't understand it, but now I know when you get that warning
Mhm.
spike in cortisol,
Yep.
which helps you wake up for the day, that fluctuation in our hormone levels was one of the catalysts that would trigger a seizure. So it's usually within the first 5 minutes of waking up, she'd go into
Mhm.
a seizure, and then multiple
Wow.
times. Anytime she had any sort of physiological
Mhm.
intensity, from hormone fluctuations, like she got nervous about something or she exerted herself too hard, she would have a seizure. And we were told that this was just genetic, and she would have to be on these. She was on 4 different benzodiazepines, taking 8 pills a day just to make it through without having an episode. And when I tell you, like, she was not herself. She was kind of, it changes your mental state. And we were told she would never be able to drive a car. We have to manage this. And I was like, this cannot be her future. This cannot be my future. This is not like, so that's when I went back to school to study functional medicine science, which is really looking at what is the unique cause and interconnectedness of the different body systems. So it's looking at how is our digestion impacting our endocrine system, our hormones, and impacting our neurological system. All of these things are linked together. They're not separate. And understanding for this unique individual, for my daughter in her scenario, where was the blockage, where was the impairment, or where was the depletion that downstream created the result of having a seizure.
Right.
We can go upstream and fix, like, okay, let's adjust and rebalance the body. Now it can flow and work with more ease. And that's exactly what we did. So I felt so empowered to learn about how these systems work, to put the puzzle pieces together with her unique situation and her, lifestyle and factors that had kind of contributed to the dynamic she was having. Long and the short, within 9 months, she was able to wean off of all of her seizure medication, has been seizure-free ever since. She's now a sophomore at Notre Dame.
Wow.
Amazing. I was able to apply the same methodology and the same approach to heal my autoimmune condition and put it into remission. Have been medication-free and feeling great, stable, consistent, great for, over a decade and a half now. So the power of a couple of things. I think it's the power of inspired learning to understand your body more specifically and what you need. And then the neuroscience to change and make, because it comes down to certain healthy choices repeated. So the neuroscience to change some of our thoughts and some of our patterns and some of our habits and choices so that you create new patterns and new identity and new choices. And then you can really rebuild health. It's amazing.
Well, anytime that you're talking about, changing the patterns, the habits, you're speaking my language. As a tiny habits coach, this is something that even with entrepreneurs, right? They want to build a business, but it really comes down to our habits that really create that ripple effect. Now, for you, and I want to kind of step back because I know that might be people who are tuning in who maybe for the first time are hearing about functional medicine. But I have a functional medicine doctor. It is the best thing I have ever found for myself. But functional medicine is really diving deep into the person's biochemical makeup. And it's not about necessarily putting a Band-Aid in a solution in something that is wrong, but is really looking at, well, why is that happening? What are the contributing factors? And I know for myself, stress tends to be one of the things that puts me right into, an episode of a flare-up of my autoimmune. And again, there's certain things that I know that don't function with my body, but again, my habitual responses have been, I love bread. And when I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed, I love to get me a piece of bread in however ways. And that definitely, when it's continually happening, right? Once in a while is okay. But if it's the thing, right, then it obviously puts my body in that response, the autoimmune response. So I love the journey that you not only have when you started with your daughter, because you saw immediately the impact, but then you were also the person that, hey, this works for people like myself, not just her. And I know that you rewrote the story and both you and your daughter are thriving. Now, tell me a little bit about, you were working in another field, you were doing some health class instruction, but what led you to eventually take the leap and say, you know what, I want to do this and help others full time?
Yeah, it was a passion. I mean, it was really, it was a progression of shifting away from kind of losing the passion for the finance work I was doing, but then really recognizing like, I want to change people's lives and health. If there's an old saying that, a woman can desire hundreds of things in their life, but if you take away one thing, health, that's the only desire.
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
It affects every area of your life. So when I realized that power and that possibility, I'm just feeling so alive with, there are other women who get to have this information, who get to have this pathway to rebuild health. So that's what inspired me to become an entrepreneur and just start doing health consulting and start having a business that can really change lives and impact people. And again, that was, it was a progression to step through and really create a process to get to the point of, now I've helped hundreds of women to predictably reclaim their lives from things like hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, insulin resistance, anxiety, diabetes, you name it, high blood pressure, all of these different things where there is a pathway to get support and knowledge and a game plan, and then be able to execute that game plan and truly change your health.
Yeah. So with changing health, one of the things, and again, we started to go in this direction in the conversation, it's not just about, deciding you're going to just change what you're eating in what you're doing in that respect. It really comes to being aware of your thoughts, like you say, and the daily experiences and how we are reacting or not reacting to them. So when stress impacts us, in that way that definitely sets our minds, what are some of the things that you teach your clients that they can do to be able to reset thinking?
Reset thinking, you just mentioned, so I have 5 steps in my process, and reset thinking is one of those steps. And I think first and foremost, it helps to understand the world that we live in. So I'm going to share a couple of key numbers that affect all of us, whether we are tuned into it or not. The first is 3.9, 5, and 30,000, especially in 2025. These numbers are impacting our health, whether we're tuned into them or not. 3.9. 3.9 is the average attention span for adults now in our time frame, in our 2025. That is so short.
That's really short.
So if you think
so
3.9
crazy
seconds, what does that have to do with your health? Well, if you're in a situation, if we're just following the norm in our culture where we're not practicing things to intentionally slow down, to breathe, to become present, the brain is on overdrive. It's constantly switching and toggling back and forth and consuming and being filled with information that puts the body into that sympathetic fight or flight response.
Yeah. And I think that's what happens for many of us. I see this and we're living in this very, unprecedented times. And I see people from all walks of life really struggling, and they don't have the tools to be able to kind of reset. And they end up going in this circle of living in flight or fight. And that's not a good way to run.
No, it's a catabolic way to run. When you're in fight or flight, your body is breaking down instead of building health. It's breaking down. So quite literally is at cellular level, it's breaking down the body. And it's doing that on purpose to try and prepare you to fight or flee to save your life. It worked really well in a time when our physical threat was present, or like if you're in a car accident and you need to be able to get out quick. That works really well. We want
that works well, right? Absolutely.
Not when you're sitting at your desk scrolling through your phone or, just toggling between all of your to-do lists. That's not effective. That's not supporting you.
Yeah. Definitely the scroll doesn't help balancing our hormones. But there's something you said, and I know that you wanted to share something, but I do want to make sure that I go back to it, because when you were describing a little bit of what was happening with your daughter, when she woke up in the morning and she went immediately because of her cortisol levels being high, I would imagine that our tendency as adults, right? Most of us reach out for our cell phone, and most of us, and I work really hard at not doing this. not going into social media first thing in the morning, because then you're not only your cortisol level is high, but now you're perpetuating that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too, because the body has natural rhythms. And so it is more familiar, more automatic to repeat the rhythm. So if the rhythm has been for, let's just say, the last 2 years, first thing I do when I wake up is I pick up my phone and I start to scroll or look at my email or my to-do list, that likely is going to amplify the stress response, right? And the cortisol increase, right? Or the adrenaline. And if you then start to shift and say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to meditate first thing in the morning. Well, guess what? At first, it's going to be hard to do because your body is already pre-programmed and used to being like, we're going to have a charge of adrenaline. We're going to have some cortisol spike. And then if you don't engage in the same activity like you had been, it's gonna your brain's gonna be like, wait, what's going on? It's gonna be hard to slow down, hard to calm down, meditate.
Yeah.
So part of it is knowing and having grace with yourself through the process, Julie. Really recognizing like, okay, I can be a witness to some of the patterns of thinking. And we do this fun exercise with all of my clients that when it comes to reset your thinking, the first step is awareness. Start to recognize like, okay, what are the thoughts that actually are counterproductive to where I want to be building health? For example, the thought is, oh, I can never meditate because my mind doesn't shut down, right? That's okay. That's the thought. Then it's what would somebody who is already living with the health or the practice that you desire, let's say you recognize like, okay, I can acknowledge if I did a 10-minute morning meditation, that would probably be beneficial for my health, but I just haven't been successful at executing it. Well, the person who's already doing the 10-minute meditation, the version of you 6 months down the road that's like, hey, I have this as a routine. What does she think about that practice? And like asking your brain that question will incite it to give you an answer. Like, oh, she actually thinks like, it took a while to get into the flow, but now it's pretty easy and it's pretty, you know what I mean? It kind of gives you a new way to think about it. Yeah. And then what's the action that version of you would do today?
Yeah.
So
I love leveraging the power of the future self. I think that a lot of people are not aware that that can be something that's available to them. And again, we're not necessarily looking to reinvent the wheel overnight to change, from what you've been doing, but it's just really, like you said, being aware and beginning to bring curiosity into it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. So now, do you meditate?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your practice.
Yeah, my meditation practice is twice a day, morning, and usually about like between 4 or 5 o'clock when I'm kind of like wrapping up my workday, whatever, just kind of regrounds and recenters. And I vacillate. Sometimes it's just a matter of setting a 10-minute timer and breathing and just tuning into my breath, tuning into my body. Other times I'll do more of a Kundalini, which is like a more sequential type of breathing. But it's really just, honestly, it's a practice of stillness.
Stillness is one of these things that I definitely discovered in this journey for myself. I remember when I was first diagnosed with my autoimmune, people said, maybe you should meditate. And like you said, right? My first response, like, what? No, I can't do that. And all these things went through my brain. And when I realized and I started to reframe, like, what does it look like to maybe just breathe? Maybe just sit here and be aware. And for someone that it's always running and her mind is always going 100 miles per hour, I stopped fighting that, hey, it's about clearing your mind. It's about just sitting and noticing, right? Oh, I'm thinking about the weather, but okay, let's come back and let's notice how I'm breathing. And just these little tweaks are the ones that, like you said, I began to practice it and I became more accustomed to them. Not perfect, right? But it just becomes part of who we are. So that's so cool. I love that we're talking about this because this is something that I'm incredibly passionate about. And I think that this is a really timely conversation for individuals. Because if people are starting to notice that they're sick, if they're starting to notice that their stress levels are off the charts, it really will lead eventually to a physical condition because this is how our body works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the statistics show that 85% of Americans have 2 or more chronic diseases by the time they reach age 65. That's
Wow.
just the norm, right, Julie? So if we're doing what is common in our culture,
Mm-hmm.
then that is going to be likely our future. So what we choose to do in our 40s and our 50s and early
Mm-hmm.
60s really can change the trajectory. And then the thing is that I think of it like steering a cruise ship,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes it's just a little,
Yeah.
a couple degrees where you
Mm-hmm.
you sit down and you do 10 minutes of breathing,
Yeah.
and or
Absolutely.
you adjust and you choose a different nutrient profile, like
Mm-hmm.
food plan, because you're like, "Oh, for me, for my thyroid, it's really helpful to have selenium. I can add in some Brazil nuts on my salad.
Mm-hmm.
It's really helpful for me to have some good iodine," whatever it is that your
Mm-hmm.
body specifically needs. If you first have that knowledge, so you know what it is, and then you are intentional with what you're adding into your meals,
Yeah.
those little shifts over time have a dramatic impact. It's like you could end up
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
difference from ending up in Tampa to ending
Mm-hmm.
up in South Carolina depends on which,
It
couple
depends how
degrees
you
of the
program that GPS. Now,
yeah,
Amanda, I want to go back to the numbers, right? Because we talked
yeah.
about the attention span. What were the
Mhm.
other numbers? I'd love for us to
The
kind
other
of revisit
number, 5. So 5 is this is it's so surprising for many of us, but it's the average number of pounds that women put on per year after age 45.
I
It's
agree.
12 pounds.
Yeah, it's
If
true.
we just do if we're just doing what is common,
Mhm.
then that is the
Yeah.
natural progression, because our body does change. Our hormones start to shift
Mhm.
around, obviously,
Yeah.
as we reach perimenopause and then menopause, especially that little buffer of those sex hormones of
Mhm.
estrogen and progesterone that can kind of give us a little bit of a stress buffer start to wind down on
Yeah.
purpose. And that's very intentional. I actually look at that transition through menopause
Mhm.
as a gift and opportunity once we can be empowered. And once we
Right.
understand, it's an invitation to know your body better, to
Mhm.
understand where your hormones are signaling to you, and then work with it in
Mhm.
collaboration instead of fighting against it to
Yeah.
really live your most fulfilling life. And usually
Mhm.
it means a little bit deeper level of self prioritization,
Yeah.
self care that perhaps in the past we've kind of allocated to family or kids or
Mhm.
career. And it's like, okay, now it's time to shift gears and step into yourself in a
Yeah.
deeper way.
Absolutely,
So
and I think
5.
that that's what people don't tell us at all, and I think that, if you're noticing, that number 1, you're stressed, number 2, that, you have continued to grow, in your waistline, some of the things that Amanda's talking about is really aligned with a great path to take.
And Julia, I would share with your listeners, if they're interested, I'm happy to gift them my hormone health assessment. I can
Oh,
gift
that'd be
that to you
fun.
for free. But this hormone health assessment, part of it is knowledge. Like we have to know where we
Yeah,
are, right? To know
yeah.
what our body is trying to show us and how to support it. So this hormone assessment asks you some symptoms and things
Mhm.
and questions about what you've been experiencing in your body, and it can tell you what your top 6
Mhm.
metabolic hormones are pointing to. Is it an area
Mm.
where you may have elevated cortisol and stress? Is it an
Mhm.
area where you may have low thyroid function? Is it an
Wow.
area where you may have insulin resistance and blood sugar
Mhm.
regulation control? So, like, having us know
Right.
what kind of direction, what kind of puzzle pieces to put together for your body. I'm happy to gift that hormone assessment if
Love
that's
that.
helpful.
I would love that. I would love that. So take me through the last number.
Yeah, the last number, 30,000. So this is the typical number of highly processed, chemicalized, what I call food-like substances
Ugh.
in our grocery stores. So
Yep.
we're inundated, even in packages that say like organic
Yep.
or all natural and all the bright colors and stuff. It's almost like it's interesting because our eyes are naturally drawn towards
Mhm.
brightly colored food because it's helpful to
Right.
eat a rainbow of foods to get a variety of vitamins and minerals and antioxidants. And the food manufacturers know this. They use science. They
Mhm.
literally manipulate the taste so that it becomes addictive to our
Yeah.
taste buds
Yeah.
and the packaging so it looks appealing. We're drawn to it. But those items are
Mhm.
really providing a
Yeah.
lot of added toxins and not enough of the
incredibly
key nutrients.
detrimental to our health. And, I never, and it wasn't until again, I went down this journey that I just ate what was at the grocery store. And maybe I wanted to, okay, be organic, less sugar, maybe that. But even the reality is like now I go to the grocery store with a very different lens. Now,
Yes.
again, it's not something that happened overnight. I was diagnosed in, let me think, 2008. So I've been working through this a long time. And I think that it doesn't mean that you're going to clean out your entire cupboard, but it's just having some of the information and then again, knowing how certain things affect your body. I am actually revisiting, and I used to do this before, and we're revisiting going back to a CSA because it's so much easier. And for those people who don't know, this is a membership to your local farms and it helps them, but it provides you, and you can check the different farming practices in how your food is being grown. But it's a win-win because then you're eating the vegetables that are fresh for that season. And that's really what your body craves.
Yeah. And then you get a variety. Sometimes my PSA, I'll get stuff and I'll be like, oh, now I have to come up with a new recipe of how to make this because it's
How
not
do you
something
use that? What is that?
Yeah. What is that? Exactly.
Right.
But I love to
Fun.
share like a simple 5 or like one hand meal plan idea that it's just like a general overview that I use with clients all the time.
Let's do it.
For simplicity. Because if it's simple, it's more likely to be sustainable. And it's what I call the PFFV, one hand meal plan approach. And what that stands for P.
Okay.
Yep. PFFV. P stands for protein.
Okay.
So ideally with each meal throughout your day, so think breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you want to think about a palm-sized serving of protein at a minimum. That's going to give you some protein. Then F, the first F is for fiber-rich foods.
Okay.
So fiber is so important, especially for our gut microbiome and hormone health. So when we think of fiber-rich foods, these are things like legumes, beans are great sources of fiber, some seeds, whole grains like your quinoa, your brown rice. So think of a scoop, a full scoop of your fiber-rich food at a minimum, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right?
Nice. Okay.
Second F is for fat, essential, healthy fatty acids. Some size serving of that essential healthy fatty acid. This could be something like a drizzle of olive oil over a salad. It could be a couple slices of avocado, something that's going to have, sprinkle some almonds into your dinner dish or something like that. So nuts, seeds, again, those healthy fats, avocado, olive oil, salmon. And then the last one is V, your vegetable, right? So a full fist at a minimum of veggies. Yes, even at breakfast, a fist of veggies, brightly colored, rainbow of, color and variety adds that mineral and vitamin and antioxidant content. But if you just think, like even going to a restaurant, PFFP, okay, what can I order that's going to give me some fiber? It's going to also give me some good veggies, right? And some healthy protein and healthy fat.
I think that's a really easy way that people can remember it. And again, it's so doable that you can do that. Even if you maybe are having, a bagel and that's the only thing that you're having. Maybe you want to have half a bagel and add maybe a yogurt. Maybe you want to add some fruit, blueberries or even nuts. I love putting my nuts in my yogurt. That's one of my favorite things. And then have a little piece of some protein. There's a lot of different things that you can do and make it doable. If you tell your brain, how can I do that? Then your brain will start to kind of come up with the answer as opposed to saying, oh, this sounds hard. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Then your brain is going to say, you're right, we can't do it. But you really have the answers and you really can work with your brain, your mind to be able to create these shifts that create a long-term health benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think of it as like, think of that's the mold. PFFE is the mold. If you know that's the mold, like, how can I find this for breakfast? How can I have this for dinner? Then your brain will supply the answers.
Absolutely. And I've noticed that I've gotten so creative with different things. And, I know that our schedules sometimes put us into ruts eating the same thing. I started doing Hungry Root last year
Oh,
because I
yeah.
wanted to eat more vegetables as well, but I also wanted to try recipes. And I don't do them every week, but it's helpful because then I'm trying different things and experimenting. And we have a lot of fun doing that at home.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Yeah, super fun. How can people that are struggling maybe with, some symptoms that they're not sure and they don't have a lot of time and therefore, and of course, they've been under medical care in the medicine, they've been given medicine, for instance, if maybe they're dealing with high blood pressure. Obviously, you can't just go from one end to the other. There's a transition. But what are some implemental or incremental things that individuals can do, for instance, to move away to having less of the medicines that are just masking the symptoms, but really working to take away some of the underlying causes that are keeping them from being healthy?
Yeah, great question, Julia. And I think sometimes we assume, or we've been taught, I shouldn't say for others, myself. I was kind of brought up under the modeling that your health is just your health. It's just
Yeah.
a kind of like a foregone conclusion until something's wrong. And then you go to the doctor and the doctor gives you a pill or a
Mhm.
medication or something to fix it.
Yeah.
That was the old paradigm. Now I'm the key to sustainable improving health, optimizing health, vibrant health is, I think, three things. Comes down to having a learning curriculum. Like,
Mm.
what is your
Yeah.
process for learning and being engaged with and
Mhm.
actually appreciating and having insight around your health, especially if it's a specific thing? Like if it's around, you know, high blood pressure. Okay, well, in what way am I learning about this
Mm. Yeah.
dynamic? And what are some of the factors that contribute to it, or what are some of the factors that help it to be improved, right? So like a learning curriculum, quite
Mhm.
honestly, that's critical. The other thing is some type of um support. So I think that
Okay.
can look like if you're in a group where you're, working together, where I my personal advocate is like for coaching mentorship. I mean, the type of mentorship
Yeah.
that I share with clients. But if you have someone outside of you that you're sharing the journey with, that you're in dialogue, that you're talking
Mhm.
about it, they're helping to hold you accountable, right? In a
Yep.
loving way, but they're not, they're passive, they're actively engaged in your success and your
Mm.
improvement is huge.
Yeah.
And the other thing is
Think that's so
inspiration.
key. And I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
cut you off, but go ahead.
it's inspiration and like sheer
Inspiration. Yeah.
learning, like
Yep.
being plugged into other
Mhm.
people who are also prioritizing their health. If you're trying to make a shift in your health, and the people around you or the people in your life that
Yeah.
surround you, it's just is low on the totem pole for them,
Mhm.
and you're not actively having a curriculum to learn and to
Yep.
engage and to connect with what opportunities are out there and how does this work and how I understand your body. And then you don't have some accountability and some mentorship and some
Mhm.
guidance helping to lead the way. That's gonna be, I mean, that's
Yeah.
a losing battle,
Yeah, you're
right?
setting
So
yourself up to fail for sure because now you're not only battling your own habitual behaviors, but now your motivation is going to go away. And
Mhm.
especially, we cannot rely on motivation to create new habits. We have to really be able to create consistency, even if it's a 1% better. And this is
Yeah,
where a community having a roadmap really does help you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amanda, I have to say that, as I look at the stuff that you do and listening to you speak, the roadmap and the community, and you provide individuals with a lot of support, but really a great way for individuals to start would be through the Thyroid Hormone Solution. Your book is
Yeah.
filled with a lot of different tips and strategies designed to help individuals in the healing process, but also you have some support that you give individuals as they go through this journey of maybe reconditioning themselves. Tell me a little bit more about your book and tell us a little bit more about the way that you support individuals.
Yes, absolutely. So, like I said, my Thyroid Hormone Solution book You can find it on Amazon. It really walks through the same 5 steps that I've used for years to help these people predictably create improvements in their health. So the first step, number 1, is identify the root cause in your specific situation. And we use a combination of some functional lab work to look at what nutrients are actually making it inside of your cells to have enough so the cells can do their job as designed, right? If we're missing some key nutrients, it's no wonder that parts of our body aren't functioning optimally. So that's always a big piece. So we look at the root cause, that, and like my symptom questionnaire, similar to the hormone assessment that I just shared as a gift, but that helps us put the puzzle pieces together. And then do a thorough health history and say, okay, given your history and your body and where your physiology is now, here's a game plan that we can start to make progress through. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is replenishing nutrients. As we just talked about, every single cell in the body is nutrient dependent. So usually there are gaps in key areas, whether it be, specific vitamins, areas of minerals, or something that's just your cells don't have enough of to work as designed. So we want to make sure that we're adding in, and I focus on the adding in way more before the taking out, because honestly, if you start to do an elimination diet, but you're not filling it up with a lot of the good stuff, it's not really going to get you very far. So we add in those nutrients. Step number 3 is restoring digestive fire. And this is always interesting because it has to do with our gut microbiome health. Oftentimes, even if we put, let's say, nutrients or supplements into our mouth, but we haven't been able to discern how those things are broken down and eventually absorbed at a cellular level, it can be very expensive and timely and take a lot of time and energy to plan what's going in the mouth. But if it's not getting into the cell, it's not really doing much good, right? 100%. So we really want to make sure that that absorption is working effectively. And there are some simple ways that we help our clients to test it and to see, like, okay, is it getting absorbed? The 4th step is reset your thinking. And as I said, Julie, we do neuroscience throughout the whole process, because starting to build in these habits of, having different food choices and thinking about our digestion is really critical. So reset our thinking to create a whole new identity as that version of you who does have truly vibrant health. What does that look like? How does she think? How does she feel? What are her choices? What are her habits? What are her skills? Right? Start to really identify that and live into that process. And then that 5th step is removing toxins, because whether it be through, our external environment or foods, even little toxins, like, I don't want to say little, but people don't necessarily think of like light as a toxin. And I teach a lot about this, how having excess blue light exposure, especially at certain times of the day, it changes the signal through our pineal gland to the brain. If we're watching screens or something like that late into the evening, well after dusk, that's not how our bodies are designed.
It's definitely robbing you. It's robbing you of health and well-being. We had a guest, Glenn Lubert, and that's a great episode when it comes to sleep, health. And again, he's a tiny habits coach too. So we talk about some very key steps, but that blue light is really detrimental. And sometimes we don't realize how little things like that can really impact. It doesn't matter what you're eating, consuming, if some of the other things are really not working as well internally. And I love that you ask individuals to also start from a really great point of knowing, what are your levels? Where are you starting from? Because if we don't know where we're starting from, it's very difficult to map out a destination and really the path to the destination.
Yes.
Amanda, this is so good. Tell me, you are so graciously sharing your thyroid assessment. Tell us how can people get that? And we'll put the information in the show notes, but I think that this is a wonderful tool that individuals can use and really create this as maybe a first step, a tiny step forward that will give you some information and maybe a little bit of direction of where to go.
Yeah, I don't think of, a woman, Kathy, that came to me and did her hormone assessment. She's like, I know I just feel off. Every afternoon
Mhm.
at about 3 p.m., I'm just like kind of hit the snooze button. I hard to keep my eyes open, hard to focus at work. I feel like my body has kind of just, it puts an extra weight around my belly, but I
Mhm.
can't get that strength, that tone,
Yeah.
feeling lean, even if I work out with my trainer in the gym. And so she took the hormone assessment, sure enough, through
Mhm.
symptoms and looking, she found out her testosterone was really low. She found out that her cortisol had actually been elevated because of kind of more of the mental activity
Mhm.
than the physical activity.
Wow.
And she was kind of in that pre-diabetic range. So really having some tools. Now she's got a game plan of like, okay, wow, I know some areas that I need to focus. We leaned into specific nutrients that can help to boost her testosterone levels, that help to
Mhm.
bring her insulin blood sugar into control. We set up a game plan for her movement. We really gave her
Great.
a comprehensive strategy and approach and transformed her life. She's like, I, released over 12 pounds. I'm lighter than I have been in years since pre-COVID. I
Mhm.
can
That's
see my
great.
mindset. She's like, I'm a whole new outlook on
Mhm.
what's possible for me. She was turning 60 and she's like, I wanted to go into my next decade
Mhm.
feeling better than I
Yeah.
did in my 50s. And she absolutely accomplished that. It's like, again, having that clarity, having
Mhm.
that kind of direction to point in and then a game plan to
Yeah.
to move forward with simple steps is it can really change your life and change your outlook for what's possible in the years ahead.
I love this point, and I do want to close with this because I think that a lot of individuals feel, well, I'm just going to go to the gym and get more um, toned and healthy. And yeah, that's helpful. You should move your body, but when it comes to physical health, what you eat, and even if you're looking to lose weight, what you eat is, I would say, 90, and you could probably tell me better, but 90% of the work is not just about the routines of exercise.
Mhm.
And if you're trying to do it one without the other, you're not going to find some of the benefits. So I love the assessment. I can't wait to take the assessment myself. We're going to put it in the show notes, but we've unpacked
Yeah.
so many different things.
Yeah.
Tell me.
And you can feel free to pick up my
Yep.
book. If you go to
Yep.
hinmanholistic.com, you can pick up the book as well,
So good.
and get the assessment there too. But yeah, I would
Okay.
definitely say if somebody who's interested and, let me get some more information. Let me see what can be helpful.
Okay.
Definitely
And we'll
grab
have the
one of those.
information in the show notes. We'll have the information. We'll have your website. We'll have how do they connect with you on social media. And speaking of social media, when people connect with you, what I'd love for them to do is to let you know what is the one takeaway. But if there's going to be one implementable, one easy to put into practice tool, what would you say is that tool?
I would say the PFFV, using
Okay.
that model as a framework for, thinking about your nourishment.
Amazing. Well,
Mhm.
again, that is super helpful. It's very doable. And I want you, maybe you want to take a picture of your PFFB and show it to Amanda and I, tag
Yes.
us on social media. We'd love to see your wins. And by the way, my friends, if you're a woman in midlife, you have friends in midlife as well. We can't do this alone. Share this information with the people that you know may find this conversation helpful and supportive for their lives, because if you are doing it for yourself, let's do it for others and create a ripple effect, because less stress, better health, we can all do with that. Amanda, you've been a wealth of information. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Tell us again how people connect with you.
Yes, they can go to Hinman Holistic, HINMAN, holistic.com.
Amazing. Well,
And I'm
thank
also
you.
on Instagram, Hinman Amanda on
Cool.
Instagram.
So again, we'll have that. We'll have all the show notes, and please visit Amanda's website. Go give her some social currency. Let her know that you heard her through Casa de Confidence. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here, my friends. Amanda, thank you again. And don't forget, everybody, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Casa de Confidence. We thank you for listening, and if you want more, go to casadeconfidencepod.com. Check Julie out on her socials as Julie DeLucca-Collins. And you can also check out her website at goconfidentlycoaching.com. Have a great week, and don't forget, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.
Hi, everybody. I know that sometimes we get very lonely in this entrepreneur journey, and I want to invite you to join us into our limited time only Purposeful You Mastermind. For many of us entrepreneurs, we believe that we can do it all, but the reality is that doing it alone only creates a lot of overwhelm. So join us at the Purposeful You Mastermind. You can find out more information by going to bit.ly/Julie's Mastermind. This is going to be the place where you are able to then unlock your full potential and achieve long-term success for your business. Push you behind your current limits, expand your connections, discover new ideas, and implement them with confidence. You're going to get the support in all aspects and transforming you to the six-figure business you've been looking for. Pause and get off the hamster wheel if you've been spinning around. This is a time where you can get that support from like-minded entrepreneurs that are here to join you in your journey. Together, we can challenge the assumptions and land the speaking engagements and opportunities we want to grow our business and make an impact in the lives of people. See you then. Remember, you can find the mastermind at bit.ly, Julie's Mastermind.